Okay. Showtime. Oh,
I heard that, Cathy. Hi, Wendy Masters. How are you? Hi, Lisa. How are you? Good.
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hobart, where we strive to put love at the center of how we show up in the world. I'm Rachel Kay, your worship associate this morning. Welcome to you, old friends and new, young and old. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or your 1000th Sunday in our midst, we are stronger because you are with us. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today our worship service is led by our minister, Reverend Cathy Harrington, and since not everyone can attend in person, we are streaming this worship service online, and we extend a special welcome to all who are joining us virtually. Another way that we walk together is by joining together for fun and fellowship. And so that means announcements. In the interest of time, if you have an announcement to share, please send it in an email to Ashley in the office by Wednesday afternoon. And you can look in our weekly Spark newsletter for more announcements. And if you don't receive the Spark, you can fill out a visitor form in the parish hall. And the announcements at 6 p.m. on May 29th, First Unitarian's Faith in Action Ministry presents a special screening of the Academy Award-winning documentary short, All the Empty Rooms, followed by a discussion featuring members of Moms Demand Action, Northwest Indiana. This 35-minute Netflix film, a journalist and a photographer set out to memorialize all the empty bedrooms left behind by children who never returned home from school shootings. Doors open at 6 p.m. for snacks, and movie begins at 6:30 with a discussion to follow. Citizens for a Sustainable Hobart will hold their native plant sale fundraiser in the church parking lot this Saturday from 10 to 2. Come out and buy some plants for your garden. It's for a good cause. And there are 2 more covenanting conversations today at 12:30 and this Thursday at 6 p.m. Thanks to all who have participated already in these rich conversations, and pizza will be served on Thursday. So, hey. And now Michelle has a live announcement.
Hello, I'm Michelle. I'm the board president here at First Unitarian. So Sunday, June 14th, after a brief coffee hour, we're going to have our annual congregational meeting. Exciting. This is our chance to celebrate what we've accomplished this last year and help make important decisions that shape our future here at First U and talk about big ideas for the next year. So whether you've been here for 20 years or you've been a member for 1 year, your participation is important, and we hope to see you all there. That is June 14th. Also, the kids in RE today made a wisdom pot. They decorated the pot, and then different congregants that were out in the parish hall put words of wisdom on flowers and planted them in the pot. So if you get a chance, check it out and see what words of wisdom people put in the pot. Thanks.
And now, greet your neighbor. Please take a moment to greet your neighbors. Say hello to someone you don't know. Bonjour. Okay, settle down. And now please turn off or silence your devices. And as you do so, allow yourself to enter sacred time together. And take a deep breath. And another. And join in the spirit of reverence.
Good morning. It's good to be together again. Each week during our Sunday service, we recite the words of our affirmation of faith in your order of service or on the screen. Please join me in these words. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. And this is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Was that pretty? The flaming chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It suggests the transformations that take place when we are held within religious community. When we light the chalice in worship, we illuminate a world that we feel called upon to serve with love and a sense of justice. Please join us in lighting the chalice by reading together the words on the screen or in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together. And now please rise for the doxology.
The organ is nice this morning, Jeremy. What you don't know is that the piano died. And so we are very lucky that our music director is very talented and versatile. So. The invocation on this Memorial Day weekend is Called by Loss, Called by Peace, written by Heather Januels. We come this day called by war, by the suffering we inflict and endure when minds across borders fail to reason and compromise. We come this day called by loss, the death of those who serve in our name, those whose lives end before their natural course in service to a cause greater than our own, than their own. We come this day called by hope. Hope that we will, in some season, finally surrender our swords for plowshares. And we come this day called by peace, that we may hear its song, that we may proclaim its promise. May our remembrance today renew our struggle. We can never stay or rest. Come, let us worship together. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 146. Soon the day will arrive. So now it's time for our story for all ages. This morning, our story is called Chester Nez and the Unbreakable Code. It's a code talker's story. October 1929, the month of small wind, when Bertoli was 8 years old, the time came for him to go to boarding school. He had to leave his family, his home, and the goats and sheep he loved and took care of. He climbed into the back of the missionary's truck. "You will need an English name," said the missionary. Bertoli's name was Navajo, like he was. "You will be Chester," the man said. At Fort Defiance School, the matrons shaved off Chester's long hair and gave him a blue uniform to wear. They made him use English, a language he had never spoken, and when Chester spoke Navajo, the matrons washed his mouth with yellow soap. Many years earlier in the 1860s, the United States Army had held Navajos captive at Fort Defiance, and from there the Army forced the Navajos to go on the Long Walk, a journey of 300 miles into what is now New Mexico. Many people suffered and died. Fort Defiance was now a boarding school for Navajo children, but some of the youngest students had bad dreams because of the fort's history. Chester did his best to calm their fears at night. He reminded them that they were not alone, that they still had families back home. June of 1932, the month of big planting. Over the summer, Chester returned home where he could again speak the sacred language of the holy people. The holy people had given to the Navajos long ago. And when he cared for the sheep and the goats and prayed using corn pollen, he felt like a real Navajo, living the right way. His heart was strong again. Being home took away the loneliness Chester felt at school. September 1932, month of half. Chester returned to school where he was again told his Navajo language was worthless. "You must use English only to survive in a white man's world," the matrons told him. Chester knew he might need to live in the white man's world one day, and in that world speaking English was essential. So he worked hard and he did well, and Chester enjoyed learning and wanted to prove his worth. He learned to pray the Catholic way and to serve as an altar boy. The Catholic way was good, but so was the Navajo way. Though he spoke English in school, Chester kept his love for his Navajo people and their language, and he decided to never break the ties that bound him to them. December 1941, the month of crusted snow. Chester was in 10th grade, and when the school principal called the students together, he told them that the Japanese Empire attacked us at Pearl Harbor. We are at war. The United States had fought the Navajos years ago, but now the United States was their country too. Chester thought about how his ancestors stood up against enemies. He should act with the same courage. Protecting his homeland was an honor. "I am a warrior," Chester said to himself. "I will fight for this land." April 1942, month of big plant. Recruiters from the U.S. Marine Corps came to the reservation. "We need Navajo men who speak English and Navajo." The U.S. military needed a way to send its secret messages, and the messages were sent in code over the radio. But since anyone's radio could receive the messages, the enemy could hear them as well. The Japanese had broken every single American code. The Marines tried a coding machine, the shackle, to create an unbreakable code, but the machine took too long to encode and decode messages. And then a former Army soldier, a missionary's son who had once lived on a Navajo reservation, suggested using Navajo, a language almost impossible for non-Navajos to speak. And the Marines agreed to try it. Many Navajos volunteered to join the Marines, but only 29 were chosen, including Chester. They became Platoon 382. Suddenly, the language he had been told to forget was important. Chester was proud that he had never given up speaking Navajo. June 1942, the month of big planting. After basic training, Platoon 382 went to Camp Elliott near San Diego. An officer took the platoon into a room. Create an unbreakable code, he told them. Start by choosing one word for every letter of the English alphabet. And then one of the men, Gene Crawford, spoke up. He knew how military codes worked. Make every word clear and different from each other, he told the others. They used English words for each letter of the alphabet. A was ant, B was bear, C was cat. Then they chose the Navajo words for each of those English words. Ant was waholi, wacholi, walachi. Bear was shush, cat was moisi. And by the end of the first day, they had the whole alphabet. A few weeks later, 3 more Navajo men joined the team. Now 32 soldiers were creating the code and learning how to use it. Instead of spelling out some items in the English alphabet, they chose Navajo words to represent them. Battleship became Lotso, which means whale. Bombs were ayeshi, or eggs. There were a lot to remember, but Chester enjoyed what he was doing, and he had an excellent memory. In September of 1942, the month of half, after 13 weeks, Platoon 382 demonstrated their code to the Marine officials. Expert code breakers could not break it. The code was strong, and the code was efficient, too. The shackle code machine took 4 hours to encrypt and decrypt a message that the Navajos could send and receive in less than 3 minutes. The Navajo language solved the Marines' communication problem. The military ordered the platoon to keep the code a secret. Only commanders and officers knew about the Navajo code. 2 men stayed behind to teach new Navajo recruits, while Chester and the rest of the code talkers shipped out to the Pacific. The time had come to use the code in battle. When their boat reached the island of the Guadalcanal, Chester and his partner, Roy Begay, waded ashore. They dug a foxhole in the sand, and then they were ready. And when a runner handed them their first message, they radioed it to 2 code talkers on the ship offshore. Banalashitose, enemy. Akaashadoni ata, machine gun. Nish nahat go da delad. Sorry about that. On your right flank. Adil tahi, destroy. Minutes after the message was received, artillery fire hit the machine gun nest, and Chester shouted, "You see that?" Their Navajo code worked. And Chester and the other code talkers sent messages on the Guadalcanal for many months until the Japanese were defeated. Then they were sent to other islands in the Pacific. The soldiers saw terrible things in combat. They dodged artillery fire, witnessed explosions, and watched men die. Chester was worn out and ill, but he kept working, and every day he prayed in Navajo, using corn pollen from his medicine bag. The Navajo way gave him strength and helped him survive until he could go home. January 1945, month of small eagle. Chester was finally home. He had seen too much death, and he felt at times as if he were dead too. And he could not even talk about it, not even to his family. And he couldn't tell them about the code. The Navajo code was a secret. And keeping that secret brought loneliness that hurt so much when he first got back to school. Chester's family knew he needed help, and they arranged an enemy way, a 4-day ceremony to help someone exposed to the evil of war. The ceremony was also done for children returning from boarding school, like Fort Defiance. Chester knew that being at school with its military structure and harsh discipline was similar to enduring war. The ceremony restored Chester to the trail of beauty and the right way, and he no longer dreamed of war. 8 months after Chester came home, the Japanese surrendered. The war was over. The Navajo code had been vital to the war effort. Code talkers had served with every Marine unit. And by the end of the war, more than 400 Navajos had served as code talkers. They had been told in school that their language was no good, but they had proven that it wasn't true. The Navajo code helped win World War II. Like his people who survived the long walk, Chester had never forgotten his Navajo heritage. And despite being told to give up his Navajo language and culture, he found ways to merge them with the white man's world, and his spirit stayed unbroken. He kept his feet on the trail of beauty. And that's the story.
Each week, we share a portion of our offering with social justice cause outside our church walls. We call it Loose Change for Social Change. Whereas the money in the baskets goes to upkeep for the congregation, the money in the cups goes to Loose Change, and this month, the Loose Change goes to Moms Demand Action of Northwest Indiana. For those not with us in person today, there's an online link for both one-time and regular donations. And could 4 volunteers come up? For your prayers, your presence, your gifts, and your service, we are truly grateful.
In the center of our service and in the center of our lives, let us pause to honor the silences of the world. Let us open our hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. As we enter into our silence, I'll share this meditation. Spirit of life, we enter into this season of Memorial Day surrounded by such a cloud of witnesses. We remember, first of all, the women and men who are currently serving in the armed forces and pray for their safe return. We acknowledge that there are women and men who will not return as we grieve their passing in the daily paper. We pause to honor their service and their sacrifice. We pause also to give thanks to all the women and men who have served in the armed services. Those who have not served cannot fully imagine the experience of war, but we do know war's aftermath and the toll that it can take on the human heart. This day remembers and acknowledges loss, and so do we remember those whom we have loved and lost. We hold their names and their faces in our mind's eye. Let us recall the gifts they gave to us through the strength of their being, the depth of their love, the courage of their dying, and the fullness of their living. In the holy quiet of this hour, their names surround us, and they live with us in blessed memory. May we remain together in a moment of silence as a tribute to all that they have meant to us. Amen. I invite you now to come forward to light a candle of memory or hope, or sit quietly as the music holds us in a meditative space. now let us fill this sacred space with the names of loved ones that we hold close in our hearts this morning, some suffering in sorrow, some celebrating in joy. The breath of nature is upon us. The spirit of life is within us. The community of love surrounds us. So be it. Amen.
Joys and sorrows are a time to share personal joys that you are celebrating so we can celebrate with you as a community. It also is a time to share our personal sorrows that weigh on our hearts so that we can support one another in times of sorrow or grief. Keep in mind that this part of our service excludes our online members, friends, and visitors. And Roz will come around with the microphone and you can introduce yourself and share.
Good morning, I'm Winnie. In the Dowell family, when I was growing up, when you turn 10, you could start going to the Indy 500. You could keep going if you liked it, otherwise it was too expensive and you had to stay back at the house and prepare for the party afterwards. So this morning, Carl and I were remembering the flurry of making sandwiches.
circle round for peace, for all of us in prison, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children. Keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom. Circle round for peace. For all of us in prison. Circle for release. Circle for the planet. Circle for each soul. For the children of our children. Keep the circle whole.
Our reading this morning is by Nathan Ryan's adaptation of a research of a Yale historian, David Blight, on the origins of Memorial Day. It was 1865. The parade was attended by around 10,000 free and recently freed African Americans in Charleston. These men and women were weary from years of military attacks on their city. Most of the white folks had fled months earlier. The site of the celebration was the Washington Race Course, which had been converted into a prison with 260 Union soldiers buried in the middle of the race course. The racetrack in those days was a symbol of Southern wealth. After the war ended, some African Americans entered the site, exhumed the bodies, and buried them in clean individual graves. Because they didn't know their names, these graves lay unmarked. They built a white fence around the burial, making it into a graveyard. In big letters, over the front was painted the words, "Martyrs of the Race Course." Once their work was done, there was a large parade consisting of 2 floats, one depicting a mock slave auction, and the other a coffin titled "The Burial of Slavery." They marched in a circle around the race course. An all-black children's choir led the procession, singing John Brown's Body and America the Beautiful. They were followed by thousands of men and women in troops. There were 5 different preachers and people reading from scriptures as they performed essentially a large-scale funeral. And soon after, many of the parade goers sat on blankets in the outfield and enjoyed a picnic.
This Memorial Day service was inspired by a Native American Army veteran, Linda Woods. She led a workshop at the Traverse City congregation when I was serving there. And she mentioned that Native Americans served in the armed forces at a higher rate, a higher percentage than any other ethnicity. I was really surprised by that, so I decided to begin to look at other minorities, including Native Americans, who have served in the armed forces. Among 573 federally recognized tribes, each with their own cultures, traditions, belief systems, and stances on war, military service remains remarkably consistent. No matter the conflict, American Indian men and women continue to risk their lives for the very government that once tried to eradicate their way of life. As many as 20,000 American Indians served in the military during the Civil War. There's a lot of information that you can begin to research yourself if you'd like about the Native Americans and the heroism and their contributions. We did learn about the code talkers. Do we have the slides, Tracy? There's a photo of some of the code talkers. And Now, this is Gregory Pappy Boynton. He was a Sioux Indian. He was highly decorated combat pilot and Marine Corps fighter ace who flew for the legendary Flying Tigers. He received both the Medal of Honor and the Navy Cross. Next slide. Glenn Douglas served in the World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Next slide. Master Sergeant Woodrow Wilson Keeble was awarded the Medal of Honor posthumously for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity. Okay, we'll stop sharing for a minute. African Americans have fought for the United States throughout its history, defending and serving a country that in turn denied them their basic rights as citizens. Despite policies of racial segregation and discrimination, African American soldiers played a significant role from the colonial period to the Korean War. And it wasn't until the middle of the 20th century that African American soldiers began to receive the recognition and equality that they deserved. The Harlem Hellfighters, the most celebrated African American regiment in the World War I, confronted racism even as they trained for war. And as you learned earlier in one of my sermons, they helped bring jazz to France. And then they battled Germany longer than almost any other American doughboys. Their nickname origin is unclear. It was possibly coined by enemy soldiers. Their bravery stood as a rebuke to racism, a moral claim to first-class citizenship. Mostly they were New Yorkers. Despite African American soldiers' eagerness to fight in World War II, the same Jim Crow discrimination in society was practiced in every branch of the armed forces. Many of the bases and training facilities were located in the South, and in addition to the largest military installation for black soldiers, Fort Huachuca, located in Arizona. Regardless of the region, all the bases were separate. They had separate blood banks, hospitals, medical staff, barracks, and recreational facilities for black and white soldiers. The experience was dispiriting, as you can imagine, for a lot of the black soldiers. The kind of treatment they received by white officers in Army bases was horrendous, and they were described living in slave-like condition and being treated like animals. Because the military didn't think African Americans were fit for combat or leadership positions, they were mostly relegated to labor and service units, working as cooks, mechanics, building roads, ditches, and unloading supplies from trucks and airplanes. As Christopher Paul Moore wrote in his book, Fighting for America, Black Soldiers, the Unsung Heroes of World War II, black Americans carrying weapons, either in infantry, tank corps, or pilots, was simply an unthinkable notion. More acceptable to Southern politicians and much of the military was the use of black soldiers in support positions as non-combatants or laborers. The next slide. The 761 Tank Battalion became the first black division to see ground combat in Europe, joining Patton's Third Army in France in 1944. The men helped liberate 30 towns under Nazi control and spent 183 days in combat, including in the Battle of the Bulge. The Tuskegee Airmen, the all-black fighter pilot group, trained at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, and they escorted bombs over Italy and Sicily, flying 1,600 combat missions and destroying 237 German aircraft on the ground and in the air. Okay, there's the 761, the Tuskegee Airmen. Without these crucial roles that black soldiers played, American military wouldn't have been the same fighting force that it was. After World War II officially ended on September 2nd, 1945, black soldiers returned home to the United States facing violent white mobs who resented African Americans in uniform and perceived them as a threat to the social order of Jim Crow. In addition to racial violence, black soldiers were often denied benefits guaranteed under the GI Bill, the sweeping legislation that provided tuition assistance, job placement, and home and business loans to veterans. The civil rights activists continue to emphasize America's hypocrisy as a democratic nation with a Jim Crow army and Southern politicians standing firm against racial equality for blacks. President Harry Truman signed Executive Order 9981 that desegregated the United States Armed Forces in July of 1948. But full integration would not occur, actually, until the Korean War. In 1991, 40 years after military segregation ended, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest military position in the Department of Defense, oversaw Operation Desert Storm. He was African-American named Colin Powell. Arlington National Cemetery and the Pentagon. This makes me very upset. Today, the Arlington National Cemetery and the Pentagon have removed thousands of pages of content honoring minority groups and women, citing Trump's DEI rollback. Notable figures like Colin Powell and the Tuskegee Airmen are now absent from the site. Critics warn these blatant racist acts erase vital military history. And so there are more Japanese American soldiers fought. There's a long stories of their heroism. They first wouldn't let them fight, but then they were running out of manpower, and so they lobbied to enlist the Nisei men, the young Japanese men who are now considered loyal enough for compulsory service. The Nisei men had a spirit of and a motto called "Go for Broke." They wanted to give all to defend their country and prove their patriotism. They helped drive the German army out of Italy and continued into eastern France, fighting nonstop for nearly 2 months. Their last-ditch effort rescued over 200 soldiers from Texas who had been stranded behind German lines. Let's see, we are, okay. The Nisei soldiers might have prevailed over Nazis in Germany and the Japanese in the Pacific, but they too came home to racial prejudice that only intensified during the war. Vigilantes were terrorizing the veterans' families so that they could not return to their West Coast homes. Some were threatened with bodily harm. For United States Senator Spark Matsugana, President Ronald Reagan's signing of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988 was an important recognition of the Nisei wartime sacrifices. The legislation officially apologized for the incarceration of the Japanese people and provided token reparations for the surviving incarcerates. There's a new stamp that they made. Yes. No. Yeah, that was, the stamp was one way of honoring the Japanese soldiers. And then we had Hispanic American soldiers. Go to the next slide. 500,000 Latinos served in World War II. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, a Mexican-American doctor named Hector Garcia, who had spent several years in the reserves, signed up to join the Army, but they put him immediately into the infantry because they could not believe that he was actually a medical doctor. He went to the University of Texas at Galveston and did his residency in Omaha, Nebraska. Eventually, they accepted him and sent him to North Africa as a battalion surgeon. Dr. Garcia became a powerful activist fighting for Mexican-American veterans who were not receiving the basic rights of the GI Bill. And in 1948, he was led to fight when a funeral home refused to bury Private Felix Z. Longoria, killed in action in the Philippines. When his remains finally made it back to the States, his widow tried to make funeral arrangements in the hometown of Three Rivers, Texas, and the funeral director refused because Longoria was Mexican. Telling reporters the whites wouldn't like it. Hector Garcia got wind of it and sprang into action. He called newspapers, sent telegrams, and it became a huge controversy. And Lyndon Johnson, A new Texas senator and a veteran himself was outraged and sympathetic. And then there's Macario Garcia, first Mexican national to earn the Congressional Medal of Honor, only to be refused service in his home state of Texas. And it was Sugar Land, Texas, where he worked as a migrant picking cotton and tending cattle. In June, 2 days after D-Day invasion of Europe, 1944, Private Macario Garcia landed at Normandy. While an acting squad leader of Company B, 22nd Infantry, on 27 November 1944, he single-handedly assaulted 2 enemy machine gun emplacements, attacking prepared positions on the wooded hill, which could be approached only through meager cover. His company was pinned down by intense machine gun fire, and he was subjected to concentrated artillery and mortar barrage. Though painfully wounded, he refused to be evacuated, and on his own initiative crawled forward alone until he reached a position near an enemy emplacement, hurling grenades. He boldly assaulted the position, destroyed the gun, and with his rifle killed 3 of the enemy who attempted to escape. When he rejoined his company, a second machine gun opened fire, and again the intrepid soldier went forward, utterly disregarding his own safety, stormed the position, destroyed the gun, killed 3 more Germans, and captured 4 prisoners. And it goes on. He received the Congressional Medal of Honor awarded by President Truman. But Texas didn't change. He was refused service at the Oasis Cafe near his home in Richmond, Texas, where he created a scene and was arrested. The national news picked up the story, and the incident raised questions. How could a country that felt an enormous debt to its veterans treat some as second-class citizens? And then there's another story, Guy Gabaldon. Now, do you all remember From Hell to Eternity? Some of you are way too young. So there's a picture of him, and there's a picture of Jeffrey Hunter, who played a 6-foot actor who played 5'4" war hero Guy Gabaldon in that film. Yeah, he was credited with bringing in over 800 prisoners in one day. What he did was, we're kind of getting low on time, but he disobeyed orders and took it on himself to handle the conflict, and ended up taking 800 Japanese soldiers prisoner. And yeah, I think that's the last one I have. So let me just say this. As the Trump administration works really hard to remove these historical counts and images of people of color, minorities, women, it is our duty to continue to keep these stories alive, to fight against this kind of erasure of our American heroes. We need to fight for anti-racist policies locally, statewide, and nationally. And so I would just close by saying to all of those, and I also want to add, there are 6,000 soldiers who commit suicide every year, veterans. And I consider them also heroes. They have been wounded by moral injury, and their deaths may have occurred after the wars they fought. But their wounds came from war. And so we remember them as well. And may all their memories be a blessing. Amen. Oh, we have to sing a hymn, yeah? Oh, this is a beautiful hymn. Right? In the silence.
About your spirit for in the silence. There's an insert in your order of service. Also, the words will be projected on the screen. In the silence. Come sing out loud.
I invite you now to join me in reciting the words on your screen and in your order of service to accompany our extinguishing of the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our closing words are by Jean Ricard. We have a calling in this world. We are called to honor diversity, to respect differences with dignity, and to challenge those who would forbid it. We are a people of a wide path. Let us be wide in affection and go our way in peace. Amen and blessed be. love it when you vibrate the floor. Please join us for fellowship in the parish hall.